Hello, everybody. How you doing? I am Rod Duff with Insights and Straight Talk with producer Barbie. It's an ongoing saga. She's out in California and hasn't made it back. I apologize, or I shouldn't say that. We haven't got set up between our two. I mean, she's in the background, and sometimes she'll do some questions that are added to the text alongside there. Anyway, sorry about being late. We had a couple technical issues, but it's been a beautiful day. I mean, our first interview, that went fantastic. We had like 400 people on who were asking terrific questions. So I'm going to ask the same thing of you guys coming in. Let's really, it's a fascinating story. Wendy Alexander, I'm going to be bringing on shortly. She's in Australia. Love the accent thing. And she is a survivor of a pretty treacherous, to just put it lightly, upbringing, or, earlier in her life. And through some of the challenges that she's experienced as a woman, and as not only physically, but also outside actions that came on. Wendy and I are going to talk about the way to move forward after menopause or dramatic issues that you've experienced, about getting a job. She is a very upbeat, pro person, and she has a great way to explain what we're going on. So let me kick it off here. I'll bring Wendy on, and she can give you much deeper information about what our chats are going to be about. Thanks. Hello. Hey, I recognize you. Wendy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, very, very well. We've had a great day so far, and the audience has been eager and interested. So we'll see how it goes along the way. Oh, look at that! I just said that, and one person jumped off. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. All right, so Wendy. I mess around a lot. I have fun doing this. Why don't you give us your background? Do what we both wanted to come here for you to talk about.
Well, the background is growing up in South Africa, in Cape Town, surviving apartheid, which was all about segregation between the races. And then migrating to Australia. Now, I obviously just skimmed over that because there's a lot of detail I could go into, but I want to get to
on the
where
apartheid?
I am now. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you now, is it different now than back then? Because I know, I'm sure everybody listening knows exactly what you're talking about in apartheid, and that was as bad as our slavery, and
yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So expand on that. What's it like now?
So look, the country's been liberated. It was when Mandela was let out of prison and became the first Black prime minister in South Africa. So, but there's a lot of challenges in the country, and probably will be for a long time. I think that type of thing, if it's been in existence for very long, takes a long time to heal. And so there are economic and probably social challenges in the country, I would say. But fundamentally, the whole segregation piece is gone. So people can go wherever they want to. They can work in any job. They're not restricted by race, so to speak. Yes. But as I said, there's remnants of what happens with a country like that is that economically, it takes a long time to recover from something like that. And certainly if you've kept a population uneducated for a long time, by the time they come into power, it's difficult for them to actually run the country effectively. And that's probably what's going on in the country. A lot of poverty, a lot of struggle, a lot of load shedding, meaning that they have electricity on and off, water's in short supply, all of that kind of things happen. So that's crazy. What's still going on in South Africa. But, we left when
Wow.
I was 20 and migrated to Australia. And Australia has been a blessing for our family. But when we first came here, it was a challenge, because when you suddenly come to a country where you have freedoms, sometimes you don't know what to do with that. There's people talk about Stockholm Syndrome, right? And I
Yeah.
think we sort of suffered a little bit from that, because I remember going around and always looking for where I couldn't go. I would ask my cousin, who had been living here for
Yeah.
5 years prior to me. I would say things like, can I get on this train, or can we go to that beach? So it's bizarre how you get programmed, and
Yeah.
you have to start liberating your own mind, I suppose, is what I want to say. And then, I got into a relationship, in my early 20s, was in that relationship for almost 10 years. Towards
Mhm.
the end of it I went through domestic violence and left the relationship when I was 4 months pregnant. So there's been a lot of trauma, a lot of things that have happened that, I suppose when I was a little girl, I didn't dream of that kind of life, right? You don't. You dream of the you dream of the
You
white
were
picket fence
you
and the
right, that the castle, with the white picket fence and the home and the building of the family and all of those things. But and people, I think the second half of where we're going in this discussion are very common issues that women all over the world, to varying degrees, even here in the U.S. and obviously in Australia. But that's an interesting and why I was so excited about this topic. But we're let me see, how do I want to put this? Your I've lost the words, but your experience of past dealings is far greater than 99.99, something like that percent. So when you're giving this advice, it's not just I've had a tough life, it's I've had a really tough life and this is how I dealt with it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Look, I think having that background of apartheid South Africa, one of the things I
Yeah.
remember, the first lesson my father taught me, he said to us, my dad was a very practical and realistic kind of person. And he said to us, you need to understand that this is the country you live in, and that means you're going to have to work twice as hard to succeed, right? So he
Smart
instilled
dad.
that. And then there were challenges, growing up there, and dad would instill resilience in us. So I think I had a very strong foundation in terms of my parents and the environment that they created. But that didn't mean that
Yep.
the whole environment around me was easy. It wasn't. It was still challenging.
No.
But I had that foundation. I had the support of parents. And then when we migrated here, also, adapting to a new country as a migrant was challenging. The thing in our favor was obviously we spoke English as well. So the language in Australia is English, maybe different accent, but we did have the language. So that was an advantage. But adapting to life and the freedoms that came, that was a challenge. It probably took us 2 years before everybody, my siblings and my parents and I, all settled in, right? So it was 2 years of adjustment, I'd say. And
Well,
then I
you
went
just
through.
let me real quick. Let me just so you had 20 years of the other
Yes,
of upbringing. Your siblings were at the same, whatever their age is. The whole family migrated, right?
that's right. Yes, the whole family
So
migrated.
20 years of the past, and to be able to overcome that in 2 years, I think is I don't know, but I think it's a pretty quick thing, because Stockholm Syndrome is real.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the thing I want to say is that I don't know if you fully overcome the trauma, but what I learned
Yeah.
was to use tools. So I was always engaged in personal development. I read a lot of personal development books. Tony Robbins was a favorite of mine.
Oh, I love that guy.
Listen to things that would uplift me. And so it was always a case of navigating trauma. And then I had entered the relationship, was in that relationship for almost 10 years. I'd say the first 5 years, 6 years were great. But then there started to be issues in the relationship with my partner. In the end, there was domestic violence, there was infidelity on his part, all of those things. And I left the relationship when I was 4 months pregnant, pretty much forced to leave the relationship because things had gotten really bad. And so I was entering that new phase of my life as a single mom, 4 months pregnant, and terrified of the life ahead, because I was going to be going on maternity leave, and I suddenly realized that the income was going to start slowing down. And how do I cope with the income slowing down? So this is where this whole career coaching and career journey began for me back then already. All I could think of at the time was I need to make more money, because our house sold at a loss, a house that I had worked 3 jobs to get. He emptied the bank accounts and I was left with a debt. House sold at a loss, I was left with a huge debt. He walked away. There was no financial support from him. So I had to start over with a baby in my belly, and I was about to go on maternity leave. So there was a lot of moments of incredible fear and wondering what the next step was. And one of the things I did do was I went to, and this is something I want to share with people, is that when you need help, go get the help, because it's easy to think you can go it on your own. But I think it makes the recovery process a lot longer. So one of the things I did do was book myself into counseling, and I was like, I need to figure out, how I'm feeling, all of this trauma that I have. So I started there. It wasn't easy.
Group or private?
Private.
Okay. Yeah.
Private.
So you communicated what's going on and got feedback as that goes. I've done it myself. I do it still myself.
Yes. And I will say that it's not going to be easy. If you do decide to go get help because you want to grow, you need to expect to be confronted, which I was. The counselor was brilliant. She gave me maybe 2 or 3 sessions where she let me indulge in my tears and my sadness and all of the things that were going on. And then she kind of hit me square between the eyes. Like she said to me, one of the questions she asked me was, so where have you played a part in this? Which, of course, when you've gone through that, you don't want to hear that, right?
Pouring salt on the wound there, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit, right?
It was like, what? And I remember, I actually had feelings of wanting to punch her, because I was so angry that she had dared to not, feel sorry for me or take my part and any of that. And she'd given me my 2 sessions of indulgence. And then she was like, it's time to really try and help you get stronger. And so she asked me those questions, and I did go away and I would write in my journal and I would try to answer those questions. Like, why had I attracted that? Why was I still going through so much trauma, and so on and so on? But then alongside that, I also had to get very practical. I needed to make more money to improve, because I had a baby on the way and I wanted to give my child a good life. That's what I knew.
How old were you at this point, this moment? I know you left South Africa at 20. Now, what age are you now?
30 years old.
Starting over.
30 years old, starting over.
Wow.
So I had the 9, almost 10-year relationship with my daughter's father. And so I was 30 years old, starting over. And I guess that's one of the other message. It's never too late to start over, right? If you do need to make changes in your life, it's never too late. It takes a little bit of courage. Actually, it takes a lot of courage to start over. But I was determined. All I knew is, you know what? I also found out early in the pregnancy that I was having a daughter. So there was something that drove me. I was like, I do not want my daughter to see me as a victim of life, that these bad things that happened to me. I didn't want her to see me as a victim of life. And so I was very determined to make things change, to improve in life. But it wasn't easy. And one of the things, when I started to do an analysis and looked at my life, I was like, I need to make more money and to get rid of the debt. So what I did was I started to approach hiring people and recruiters. I'm like, who are the people that can help me get better jobs? And it was hiring people or recruiters. And so I went directly to them and started to pick their brains, ask for help. I would take them out for coffee. I didn't have a lot of money at the time because I was clearing debt, but I would save in little pockets, and then I would invite people out for a coffee and start asking them questions. That's where I started. And I will say most of them were generous.
So what kind of questions what kind of information were you pulling out of these people over coffee? That's a really great idea, by the way. Build on that a little bit.
Yeah. So what I did was I said to them, look, I in my head, I was like, I need to make an extra $15,000 to $20,000 a year. That was quite a big jump, right, back then.
Big time. Yeah.
And I said to them, how do I improve my resume, how do I improve my interview skills? And they would give me tips. Like, for example, with the interview skills, one of the recruiters said to me was, try to be sharp and compelling when you answer your questions. Don't waffle. Do not, they said to me, remember who the person is that you're talking to in an interview. They are a very busy hiring manager, or they're a busy recruiter. So you need to be mindful of their time. When you simply show the awareness of their time and you get really good at giving an answer in sort of 2 minutes or under, you're going to start getting people's attention, because most people go into interviews and they waffle and they talk for 5 minutes or they talk for 6 minutes or whatever and they don't understand that an interviewer has a certain number of questions they want to ask you. And if they don't get to ask all their questions, they left incomplete in terms of deciding if you're the right fit for their company. And I was like, wow, I never really thought about it like that. So
absolutely.
I started to practice, and I would be talking to myself in the mirror. I would be talking to the baby when the baby was bouncing in the bounce. And I was like, I don't care who I'm talking to, but I'm going to time myself. I'm going to see if I can give an answer in 2 minutes or less. Now, with everything in life, when you practice something, you get better at it, better and better. And so I just practiced. I also wrote and rewrote my resume a gazillion times. Fortunately for me, I love words. I've always loved words. When I struggled in South Africa, I would often journal, I would write poetry. So words were kind of like a way for me to process things. So I became good at writing because I wrote so much. I wrote little short stories, poetry, novels, all these type of things. Never ever published them, but I wrote them for myself, and I wrote them as a way to process my emotions. So I started to channel my ability with words into resume writing. And as I shared my resumes with recruiters, they would give me feedback and they would say, it's still a little bit too long, tighten it up a little bit more. And it was really a matter of practicing the resume writing over and over and over again, practicing the interviews over and over and over again. And from the time I started this research to the time I landed an opportunity was about 8 to 9 months. So it was an 8 to 9 month process of over and over practicing. And then I landed this opportunity. I went for the interview. I didn't get the job. So of course I was flat disappointed, but I went back to that interviewer and I said, can you give me feedback on how I can get better?
Smart move.
And so the woman who interviewed me gave me feedback. She said, you spoke a little bit too long here. You didn't answer the question there. You know, I was reading your resume and I was looking and seeing that you left out some things from what was obvious in your resume, but you didn't cover it in your interview. And so in the end, I took the feedback, went back, practiced again, you know, talking in the mirror, talking to the baby, talking to whoever would listen to me. And this is sometimes what it takes, right? I got another.
It's like a muscle. It's like a muscle, right? The more you work on it, the more fit it becomes, or the better it becomes. So before you get into the interviewing part, real quick question: what about the resume itself? Is more better? Any 2 or 3 tips that you found through this process that worked?
Well, here's the thing. The resumes before, when I was sort of starting out 25, 26 years ago,
Totally different
resumes,
styles. Yeah.
People were very focused on their tasks and responsibilities, and they would have long resumes. But we are in a market today where the competition is so fierce. So if you're wanting to change careers, you're wanting to grab attention, you have to be very succinct. You've got to be tight with your words. 2-page resumes is enough. Anything more than that, and most people aren't going to read it. Why? Because they're too busy. They have to read. One job might get 100 applications for it. So do you think a recruiter or hiring person wants to read, 100 resumes that are 5 or 6 pages long? No, they don't want to. They don't have the time. So the person who stands out in today's market is the one who can communicate very succinctly and very tightly, very sharply, very compellingly. Those are the key things. And so now I've developed processes where the resume is 1.5 to 2 pages max, right? Even if you've been working for 30 years, you've got to know what to highlight in your resume. People want to see the highlights of your career, and they want to see where you've achieved more than they want to see your tasks and responsibilities. So the market has changed. We're in very competitive markets at the moment. But, back to the story, what happened was I got another opportunity a month after I didn't get that first one. And interviewed, and I got the job offer. And the job offer was about $50,000 more than I was currently earning. And I was like, I am onto a winning formula here. I knew that there was something for me to be able to get that kind of offer. And then I started in corporate, in hiring, and people around me who knew my story knew that I'd hit a rock bottom in life and had lost everything and had been, was pregnant with a baby and started all over again. They knew the story and they started to come for help. So this was friends, family, and colleagues came and asked for some help. And so I started to help them. And they started to get the successes in their careers. I used the same formulas and the same things that I'd done for myself and started to help other people. And they started to get the successes. And so I realized, oh, there's something here. And my side, I call it the side gig, was born once I started to get success for other people. It was done very much on a part-time basis, because I was in corporate now. I had landed this big job with this big money, 50 grand extra, and I wanted to succeed in that role. So I was doing a full-time corporate career, and I was doing a very part-time coaching career, like writing resumes for people, helping them with interview coaching and so on. And that went on.
Entrepreneur,
absolutely. So I had my side hustle parallel to my career. And
which your career, you needed 15 to 20,000 more a year because of the needing of circumstances. So you got 25,000 more than you knew you needed. So that's a really great point, because you're achieving something that's beyond what your absolute need is. So you got more than you got more out of that. So that interview is what puts in an hour, gives the potential employer how skill set you are. And it's not just about skills, it's about transferring the information about those skills that they want to hear, right?
That's right. Speaking in their language and showing, I suppose what they could see was that what I did have, even though there were so many challenges and I was trying to climb out of debt, they could see, I suppose, that I had resilience, that I was going to do what it took to move forward. And I was also, educating myself and learning certain things. Like I was doing little courses in project management, and because that was the direction I wanted to head. And I was learning about information technology and things like that. So there was a bunch of things that led to that success. And all of it was about growth and learning, you know. And I think when you show that, when you show people that you're willing to grow and learn, there are many people in life that want to give you a chance. People love people who are going to try and move forward, and not stay stuck in unpleasant circumstances. Because I've always been very authentic as well. I never hide things about myself. So when I've gone through very difficult times, even sometimes when I was interviewing, I would say, they would ask me, tell me about a challenge you've overcome. I very rarely used a professional example. I used my own personal example. I would say, this is what happened to me. These are the 2 or 3 steps I took, and this was the result. And people would look at me and they go, wow, okay, wow, you know. So you need to be willing to share some of your own personal life, because here's a thing for people to remember too, is that hiring people want to hire human beings. They don't want to hire people that come across as professional robots. So they want to know a little bit about your struggles. They want to know a little bit about you as a human being, because at the end of the day, they know you've got to work with other people in the company. So you have to be able to connect with people. You have to be someone who's willing to have a level of self-awareness and know that you're not going to be perfect at everything all of the time, but that you're going to be willing to work through it and navigate it and work with other teams.
And I not give up, you know, move forward.
And not give up. Always move forward. And if you can demonstrate that sometimes with your own story, it's sometimes a lot more powerful than your professional story. And so I always used a combination of both my personal and professional story to keep it balanced and to show people that I was just an ordinary human being who was coming through some challenges, who was never going to give up, who was going to keep trying. And okay, maybe I would fail again or whatever, or wouldn't get that first job, or, you know, even the second one that I went for, but I was going to keep trying. And so I think people could see something in me. I suppose they saw a certain level of strength, a level of resilience. And so they gave me opportunities. Confidence.
I mean, you spent all that time with your girl, probably knows every skill set you have, because you, as a baby, you drilled it into her. But that confidence also comes through that way, because you've done it. You've rehearsed it. You've invested time in your future that gave results that you're talking about now.
Absolutely. Yep, it is. It's an invest. Sometimes it's an investment of money and time, but it's always an investment of time. So, always, you know, sometimes you can find people who can help you along the way, like I did. But the other thing I will say, is that I did find 1 or 2 coaches that I worked with, and when I started out, when I was coming out of that debt, I couldn't afford them, right? So I would find a coach that I thought I might want to work with, and I'd ask them what their fee was. And I was like, my God, I'm paying off debt. I can't afford this coach. But what I did was, and here's where negotiation comes in. So I'm giving a little bit of a mini little class in negotiation. I would say to the coach,
you are well-rounded, man. You got, I mean, your subject is awesome. And I mean, look at the conversations that are coming here. There's a lot of thirst for how to rebuild and how to not give up and all that. But tell me about the other parts of the clock.
Yeah, so with the negotiation, when I couldn't afford the coach, I said to the coach, okay, how long is this fee going to hold for? And they'd say to me, why? I said, because I really want to take your class, and I know you hear the story often, but I can't afford it right now. I'm paying off debt. I said, but if you can hold that fee for me for a certain period of time, I will make sure I get the money together, right? And most of the coaches, I think back then, they were so interested in helping people. The 2 coaches that I approached said, one of them said, I'll hold this fee for 12 months, and the other one said for 18 months. And what I did, so here's where the sacrifice comes in. I adapted. I stopped going out to movies all the dinners out, all the things that I loved doing. I used to sometimes go for a massage and things. I stopped all of that and I started to save the money because I worked back and I go, okay, in 12 months, I need to save $1,000 and this is how I'm going to do it. So I would calculate backwards. I maybe needed to do $50 a week or whatever, right? Looking at my bills and everything. Now I sacrificed everything. It was me and the baby. That was it. We never went out. Family came over. If people wanted to see me, I said, you need to come over and I'm going to cook you a meal or we're going to have a coffee together in my home, but we're not going out to restaurants and things. And I did a year of that sacrifice, had got my $1,000 together and was then able to work with the coaches. So, I suppose what I'm saying is that change, if you're wanting to change for the better, or you're wanting to grow and learn, sometimes there's a heck of a sacrifice involved. And sometimes it is about adapting your budget, deciding what is going to take you forward in life. And I knew, look, it would be great to be out and having dinners and going to the movies and all that. But the question when I asked myself was, is this going to take me forward in my life in 2 years' time? No, it isn't. It's just a fun thing to do. It's a great thing to do. And I'm not saying to people don't have fun, but I'm saying assess the life and work out what you need to do to move ahead. For me, back then, I needed to save the money to get the coach that I wanted to take me to that next level, right? And I've always done that.
Two quick things. The story of the coach is what is that coach? What was that coach for you? And the other thing I want to say is there seems to be a continuing theme in your story about priorities, right? And action and all of that. So if you'd expand on those two things, I'd really appreciate it because it's getting a lot of interest here. And then here, Wendy, how do you help clients align with their own careers and their own values? So talk about what I just said, and then, that obviously is what you're driving out, right?
Okay, so the coach for me was a coach at that time, one of the coaches I wanted to engage was one in finances. So to help me really budget properly and I knew that I had to pay off the debt. But what I was doing, I was kind of on that hamster wheel of just paying off debt, paying my rent, paying the babies, like daycare and things like that, and paying my bills and food and things like that. But I wanted to get better at my finances. It was like, how can I start to find a way to invest money and to save even better than I was saving? And sometimes, I'm a word girl. I'm a wordsmith. I'm not a numbers girl. And I knew that about myself. I'm like, there's something missing here. There's something I'm not able to save. And I know, back then, because I remember I earned 50 grand more, but I was paying so much money was going to the debt. So I always felt like I wasn't getting ahead. Like I was kind of just plateauing is the word, I suppose. I wasn't struggling.
Staying above water, but not getting anywhere.
Not getting anywhere. And so one of the coaches, for example, was around finances. The other one was simply, it wasn't a Tony Robbins, but it was a Tony Robbins like coach helping me in personal development, right? And so that was where I was headed, and I worked hard and I saved hard. What was the other question around?
How long do you have? Did you work with them?
Both coaches.
With them.
With the coaches. Yeah. So one coach was 12 months. The finance one was 12 months, and the personal development was probably 2 years, I'd say.
Dang,
right?
That's really investing in yourself, giving over things that don't push you forward, that you aren't useful to you, and then moving forward. The second question was that it seems to be a theme in your life and in your story, which is dramatically important and critical to having, I can almost say, any success in your life. That constant priorities, putting them in the right places, and even sacrificing when needed, because unlike most people, almost everybody, you want the enjoyment now. You don't have the sustainability. Dang it.
Yeah.
You don't have the sustainability. This dang thing keeps attacking me. I've got it in a weird spot though. Let me do that.
Yeah.
But that ability is critical. And then what I asked you to do was tie that in to the you see the text down below there.
Yeah. Okay. So priorities, yes, absolutely, was always a theme through my life, and that came from young. That was from Dad setting those realistic expectations for us growing up in South Africa. It was like, listen, this is the way the country works. It is classified into these segregation elements, and you fall, because I was classified as a Cape colored, so I'm of mixed race, biracial, right? And Dad said, this is where you fall.
Is that better or worse? Was that better or worse? Or same?
Well,
in South Africa.
In South Africa, we were in the middle. We didn't belong to either. So there was white, there was biracial, colored, and there was black. And so we really had no place, right? Neither group really wanted the colored community. And there was limitations on us. There were certain schools you couldn't go to. There were universities you couldn't go to. There were beaches, cinemas, all of these things. And so Dad set the realistic expectation. He's like, if you want to go to university, first of all, the family couldn't afford it, right? Because we were sort of middle class or lower middle class, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to get good grades because you're going to have to get a scholarship to go to university. Right? That was kind of the realistic expectation. So I think the priorities were set from young, and it was ingrained from young. And so when I was going through all the various challenges I've gone through in life, I've always known instinctively that I had to set priorities. Now, I can't say I've always loved it. In fact, I've hated it sometimes, right?
And you had to do it.
I had
to do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because
life's a little more work when you put work into it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you get out of life. It's an old saying, and my grandma used to say it, you get out of life what you put into it. And so it was like, okay, if I want to change my circumstances, I hate this, but I'm going to have to do it. And I don't know, it was a movie I saw, and I can't remember the movie's name, but I think there was a saying in the movie was, sometimes you need to do what you have to do to be able to do what you want to do. Oh. I think Denzel Washington was in that movie, and the name slips me now. But
I often said it too. He's an amazing person. I like him. He's my favorite actor.
Yeah, he is. And I would say that to myself, but I'd also, as I was raising my daughter as a single parent, those were words I used often with her. When she moaned and groaned about having to do certain things that she didn't like doing, I would say, you need to sometimes do what you have to do to be able to do what you want to do. That's been a mantra that's driven most of my life and still does. But in terms of helping others identify their careers that's suitable for their personalities or what they want to do, what I will say is that do the foundation piece. And a lot of people try to skip the foundation piece. And I'm going to share what that is. I have a process, and I did this on myself when I was trying to change careers. I've done it. I do it with all of the people that I work with. I've also put the start of it up on my website as a free resource, right? And it's called Mining Your Story.
What's that website? Go ahead and throw that out.
My website is happycareerhub.com. And so mining your story is a process that I take people through. It's the foundational piece for all career success. And what it is, it's about digging into your own story, both your personal and your professional story. And in this piece of this worksheet that we do, it's about, first of all, looking at what are your natural talents. So going through the process of identifying what is your natural talents. And one of the clues you can have is like, what do people come to you for advice for? Like for some people, they're really great listeners, right? They're great listeners.
Yeah.
And other people, they're really good with money. And so people might say, hey, can you help me with the budget? Or, so always try to figure out what is the thing that people come to you for. In my case, it was words. I loved words. People could see that I knew how to use words. So every time people needed, even my bosses when I was in corporate, used to make me write their emails and their communication because they're like, you so effective with words, right? But that's because I loved it. And I did it so much that you get better and better when you do something. And so my thing was words. And so when I was mining my story, I was like, I really love words. What can I do with words? So I sort of parked that. I started to identify all the things that I was good at. The other thing was I had this ability to listen to people and tap into some of the things that they couldn't see in themselves, And so when I was mining my story, I identified there's two key things in my life that keeps running as a theme. One is this love of words, this ability with words. The other is an ability to help people or the desire to want to help people. So I park that. And then the next thing you do is you go through where have I achieved? List as many of your achievements in life. And that can be personal and professional achievements. In fact, it should be
mean
both.
like on a sheet of paper?
Yes. So you go
like
through
the goal. Okay, go ahead.
And so you'll say, for example, you maybe have entered a job and you walked into the project and there was a team and the team was struggling. Okay, so what did you do? So you maybe noticed a few things, like, for example, I realized I could uplift people. That was another thing that I seemed to be good at. I would walk into companies, I'd often see the teams were struggling, and then I'd identify, okay, where's the weaknesses in the team? Who needs extra training? Who needs to simply be encouraged because they're a bit shy and they don't speak up in meetings? And who needed specific job type of training? Like if we were doing project delivery and they didn't know how to capture issues and risks, do I need to train them in that, right? I would also hold these meetings with people, one-to-one meetings, to try and figure out what their learning struggles were or where they needed to improve or what they were interested in doing. That was the other thing. And then what happened was, because I was always taking this time to identify how the team could improve, and I started to implement certain things with the team, like one-to-one meetings, group meetings, reward and recognition programs, and things like that. What happened every single time in the companies I worked in, the team improved. And suddenly we were delivering ahead of schedule and things like that. So when you mining your story, do the same thing. Go and look at the achievements that you've accomplished in life, in your personal and professional life, but also identify in those achievements what were 1, 2, or 3 steps that you took that resulted in you attaining that achievement. Because once you learn to identify the action steps you've taken, that's another level of skill. And it's also a way that you can articulate it on your resume and a way you can articulate it in an interview. Because interviewers always want to know how you did something, right? You uplifted the team. They may have been performing at 10% and you worked with them and they started to perform better within 3 months at 50% and better and better. So an interviewer doesn't just want to know that you achieved the result. They want to know how you achieved the result. So in the mining your story, I get people to dig into the achievement and also dig into the skills that they use to attain that achievement. And then the other thing that's really important to look at, which so many people overlook, is what have you overcome in life? Personal and professional. What have you overcome in life? Because within there's a set of skills that you had to engage to overcome. We don't overcome unless we engage a level of skill. And that could be bravery. That could be courage. That could be, I'm going to go learn something that I don't know because I want this type of job, right? It ranges. And then obviously once you do the foundational piece, what I see is people try to skip this foundational piece of digging into their achievements digging into what they've overcome, digging into how they've used their skills. And then when it comes to writing their resume, they're struggling because they haven't got that foundation. When people do this foundational piece, they've got all the information they need, and they can pick and choose what is going to be the most relevant thing to put on the resume. The same applies when you're interviewing. If you can't give really
and that's the most important part, right? That's the most, I mean, if you haven't dug in, I mean, it comes across differently than when you have dug in, right?
That's right. When you know your story, and more importantly, when you own your story, when you own it, there's a level of confidence that you speak with, because here's the other thing I see is people don't want to own their story. They worry about the mistakes they've made. Sometimes they don't see that if you've made a mistake and you've learned something, that is worth communicating in an interview. Because people always want to know that there's a level of self-awareness. They want to know that that life isn't perfect, but that if you're growing and you're learning from mistakes, that is gold to most people, to most hiring managers. Because what they know then is that, Mary, Sue, or Jane, yes, there was a mistake that they made in that particular instance, but they grew through it, they learned, and something changed, right? And that is, people know that if you can do that in one job or in a second job, you can do that in any job. You have a level of, you have it in there, and you're not so cocky that you think you don't make mistakes, right? Because we all know human nature. Everybody makes mistakes. We make mistakes in life. We make mistakes in professional life.
I've never made a mistake. I mean, I may be the exception to the rule there, but I think if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, I've been perfect on every decision, thought, step forward that I've ever taken, ever.
Well, then I envy you.
That's one of those things that's so obnoxious. It's stating a whole different thing, right?
Yeah, and you give off a very different vibe when you walk into a place and you act like you've never made an error or anything like that. People will be very cautious and very wary of hiring you because, first of all, there again, you're coming across it as a professional robot, and you're coming across as unrelatable to the other people that you have to work with.
Good point.
Right? Yep. And so those are important. So with regards to transitioning or creating the career you love, do the foundational piece first is what I would say to people. That's step number one. If you don't want to invest the time into getting your foundational piece right, then don't expect a hiring person to want to give you the time to come and make a huge mistake in their company or to be unrelatable in their company, because they are not going to do that. They're going to want to know that you a human being, that you're relatable, that you can work with other people, and that you're someone who is on that continuous growth and learning path. Meaning, you're not going to be perfect all the time, but you're going to do the steps that it takes to get better. That's what most people are looking to hire, right? Especially now, post the pandemic, because the other thing that people know is one of the things that's happened that's changed the hiring market is that everyone knows we can work from home now, right? There was a time where people used to go, no, we can't let them work from home. Well, no boss can turn around and say now that you can't work from home. Everybody did it. We did it for a year. In Australia, we were the most locked down city in the world, right? Melbourne. So we were locked down for almost...
Wait. You only did it for a year where people had to come in, didn't have to come into the office, work for home, and that's not the case anymore?
Well, everyone's coming back into the office now, but what bosses have done is created hybrid environments. So there's
we're eliminating all that here. The new administration, if you're a federal employee, I mean, they're still doing it where, you have an entire building that you're paying rent and maintenance on and nobody's there. I mean, 5 people are there or whatever. So yeah, we're kind of ridiculous about that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that a hybrid environment is the best environment. And the reason I say that is because we feed off our teams. There's something that happens in human connection and in ideas that get mulled around together
100%.
as a team. And I don't think it's as effective to do that online. So I believe that coming into the office a couple of days a week is a good idea, because I've seen it, people thrive. I've seen them connect. They feed off each other. Ideas get sparked when people are in a room together. And so I've seen it be very effective. But I also think that working from home for some people is a good thing, or a combination of the two is great.
Absolutely.
Because you want to be able to support parents who need to drop kids off to school and things like that. You want to have a flexible, because here's what I will say is that when people get supported in the work to be able to be reasonably flexible in work and life, they produce better work. They produce better work because they feel like they're supported. They feel like the boss understands me. Okay, we can come into the office 1 day a week, 2 days a week, maybe work as a team, spark the ideas, each one go back into their corners at home and generate those ideas, right? I actually think a hybrid environment is the best environment to have ultimate success. Because I think when people are...
Is there a specific number? Like you said, work from home 2 or 3. What I mean, or does that matter? Obviously, 1 time a week, you can't really create that inspiration and that, because you're isolated the rest of the time. I mean, 2 days, 3 days. What's in your opinion? What do you think?
I think,
or does it matter?
I think 2 days a week is good. I actually think that 2 days is a good balance, because sometimes you might come together as a team and you generate the idea, but then you need to delve a little bit deeper. So you need a little bit more time. Or the other thing that could happen is you come together, say on a Monday, spark all the ideas, everyone goes away and works on whatever they're working on in the project. And then maybe Thursday, come back together again and see that the ideas are gelling and gelling well, and that you can deliver on them. I've seen that work really well. Most people don't want to come into the office on a Friday. So I would say don't force someone into the office on a Friday, like make it be Monday or Thursday, Yep. Look, we're starting to see in Australia as well, they're trying to pull people back to the office, but some of the companies that have done that, they've actually seen the productivity drop, because people have become used to work. And a lot of people need what I call zone time. So they need to get into the zone of whatever it is they're going to deliver.
Oh, that's such a great point.
And so
the zone,
zone, they need to get in the zone. And when they're at home, if the kids are at school and so on, they can get into the zone. There isn't distraction. People aren't walking past their desk wanting to have a chat and invite them out for a coffee and this, that, and the other. And so I think that, if employers are smart, allowing people to have zone time and what I call collaborative creative time, that's gold, and so certainly when I'm asked for my opinion here in Australia, and I work with a lot of hiring people, I always try to encourage them down that road. I'm like, look, because first of all, having a hybrid working environment shows 2 things. One, that people need zone time, and they need collaborative creative time, and two, that you're showing that you support them. When you're a flexible boss or a flexible company, you're going to get the best out of your people when you exhibit that flexibility. If you become rigid, people become resentful. People become resentful if they feel unsupported, and then they're not going to give you their best work. So
the work goes down. It's affected big time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal view is that, and I try to, if people do come to me, if hiring people and companies talk to me, that's the way I encourage them to go.
Well,
they may not listen to me,
but that input, that same thing. You're now on the coach side versus the student side, because you've experienced all that stuff. And if they don't listen to you, then they're probably doing the same things over and over and over again. Like Einstein said, doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result.
Result. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I know there's another topic about I know you also speak on after a woman's journey through the whole life and getting into the point where you're more in your golden years and your body's affected, and you go through menopause and so forth and so on. I don't know how long that is. We're kind of getting close here.
Yeah.
We go over periodically, but do you want to go over that, or you want to use that for another or use that?
I'm happy to have a quick chat about the midlife. So I actually left corporate when menopause hit, because I went through again. I kind of roll my eyes sometimes, because I'm like, gosh, it's always challenging. I've always had challenges in my life, and I've always had to overcome them. So menopause for me was a very difficult time. I was at the height of my career. I was at the top of the game. I was earning loads of money, leading people, hiring, working on $100, $200 million projects, so I was at the top of the game at that stage. And then along came menopause. Huge. It came early for me. So I think, yes, the other thing was I expected it to be in my 50s. It came at age 45.
Oh, wow. That is young.
So I was totally unprepared. And I think because I was so unprepared, it slammed me. I went through all the awful symptoms: insomnia, brain fog, hot flashes, everything. And they just came all at once, and it came on very suddenly and very quickly. And so I didn't know what to do with myself. And obviously, working at that level in corporate, I'm in a stressful role, right? Because 100%, when you're at that high level of the game, you're working with a lot of money, with a lot of huge stakeholders, and a lot of stress. And I started to see, I was like, this doesn't suit me anymore. My body can't cope with that, Right. The other thing, right. Sometimes I would get hot flashes in meetings. And for me, severe nausea came with my hot flashes. So I would have to dash out of a really important meeting to the bathroom, whatever. It was so embarrassing. There was no conversation going on around it in the workplace at the time. So I didn't know how to cope. And so I did my mining your story worksheet again at that point in my life. And I identified all the things that I'd learned and that I was good at, that I liked doing. And I realized that I'd no longer, because I was in technology program management, and I was like, I wasn't interested in that anymore. So that had changed for me over the years. The only part of my job that I still really loved was helping people grow. So I was still helping people in the workforce, helping them get training, helping them upskill, and I was coaching and so on. And I was like, this is what I love. And the only other part of my job that I still love was writing all the communication bulletins, doing my boss's communications, writing the presentations. So there again, that theme of words and helping people resurfaced. And I thought, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And so I started to transition out of corporate. But how I did that was I started to, by that stage, I cleared all the debt. I have a new partner. So I have a partner in life, Peter, who you've met through the emails.
I like that dude. I like him. I was talking to you beforehand. He's a very clever gentleman. I don't tell him.
Very clever. Very clever and very supportive. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this high stress anymore. And I really love.
And that's horrible for menopause, coaching. Right? I mean, awful. If you add during that time high stress, it just impacts and accelerates.
Accentuates.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that. We're on the same page.
We're on the same page.
We are. So that's a tough one, and something a lot of people go through, right? I mean, so you had that, and then you worked your way out of it.
I worked my way out of it, yes. And I transitioned full-time out of corporate and full-time into the career coaching business and into the resume writing. And I also did a course in copywriting. And so I write business copy for small to medium businesses. Again, words. For me, it's just all about. So what I've done in my life is that I've gone to the thing that gives me the most joy. And when you transition to something that gives you the most joy, you start to reduce the stress in your life. You know,
Good point.
I was able to, you know, and look, I will say the first year of that transition was challenging because you have to generate. I had to generate more clients. I mean, I had my steady clients. There are people that have been working with me for 15, 20 years. Every time they go for the next promotion or they go for the next job or the increase in salary, they come back to me. So I have my steady client, you know, people that are higher level.
Higher levels. So more knowledge needs to be, you know, that's you're coaching that next level of information. So that person is qualified,
That's
or,
right.
you know, is comfortable in that new bigger role. Right.
That's right. And I mean, and look, even though for some people, you know, I've worked with CEOs who are going for next levels and things like that, but they struggle with the word side of it, the framing the story. And that's why they come to me. It's because they know that I love it. And that's why I say, if you're going to get support, get it from somebody who loves what they're doing, because they're going to do it naturally, automatically, joyfully, and you're going to get a great result. And so, yeah, I decided, you know what, I'm going full time into the coaching, and have been I left corporate in 2018. So I've been at it now for 7 years.
7 years. Yeah.
7 years full time as a coach. And I love it. I love my work. I work on my terms. You know, I love my exercise. I live next to a walking trail. So my morning is about taking the dog for a walk, doing my exercise. And I only start my working day at 10 o'clock every day. 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock is my working hours now.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
But I suppose the message for people is that, and especially for midlife women, is that there are opportunities. It simply is about going back again to that foundational piece, identifying what matters to you, what's your natural talents, what are you good at, what have you overcome, so you get all those skill lists together. And then you frame it up so you can transfer those skills into another industry. Because every single person in the world has got a set of transferable skills that they can use. Skills like problem solving, like leadership, like team building skills. Those kind of skills, every industry needs them. Whether you're in banking, whether you're in IT, whether you're in retail, whether you're in customer service, there are certain skills that every company needs. And if you highlight those skills more on your resume, you're going to be able to get the opportunities. What people tend to do is they highlight certain job-specific skills, right? So, for example, if someone's a data analyst, they're going to highlight all the data analyst skills instead of the skills that are about people. When you're wanting to think of transferable skills, ask yourself, what are the key skills that are about people? Because the skills that are about people are the skills that people are hiring for now. That has become super, super important, more so than, so they call them EQ skills, emotional intelligence skills, right? EQ skills are far more important than job-specific skills. Why? Every hiring person knows that they can train someone in a job-specific skill, but they can't necessarily train someone in what we call EQ skills or attitudinal skills. The great attitude is what matters. EQ, emotional intelligence. That's what, you know, we've got the IQ.
Okay. Yeah.
So EQ. And that's what most companies now are looking for. So if you become really good at framing up your resume and your LinkedIn around your EQ skills, that's going to get you in the door. You know, because most companies will, you know, if you're missing a couple of job specific skills, companies will train you. You know, they'll send you on a workshop, or they'll invest some money into training you to get you up to skill on that particular application or software or whatever it might be. But what they want is the people who can work with other people. That's become really, most hiring companies, that is a priority. And so when
that's the difference of a company's success in unity. You know, I mean, if you're hiring people that work within like you said, you can always train the other, but having people that can work together and you're all on the same path and all on the same thing, and you like each other's company to a degree.
Yeah.
That's a difference in a company, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a difference between what I call rudimentary success and great success, right? Companies want great success. They want the reputation of being a company that achieves well, and that has a great environment for their people. And so these are the skills that they're looking for now. And so, look, I'd say to a lot of midlife women, and women already have certain inbuilt abilities like multitasking that, I mean, we're running households, we're taking the kids to school, we have our careers, we prioritizing health, we're supporting our partners. That's an inbuilt skill for a lot of women, but a lot of women don't know how to frame that up, how to show how they're able to do so many different things at once. And once you learn how to do that, you're going to be able to sell yourself both on your resume, your LinkedIn, and in an interview. Those are the three.
That's a
three
great
key
point.
things to get right.
Yeah, that's a great point. And people don't know what other people find as value in their own assets or their own abilities. And that's what you do as a coach.
Absolutely. Yep.
You bring them into a not only knowledge, but a confidence about that knowledge. And that's kind of the main thing and main structure. Do you want to have any closing thoughts here? Tell about your website. Let's see how.
Okay, so I have happycareerhub.com is the best way to reach me if people do want to reach out to me. But also I'm on LinkedIn at Wendy A. Alexander. So I had to choose A in the middle as the middle initial because someone else had Wendy Alexander. No, not A dot,
or just A.
Wendy, just A. So Wendy, and then there's two A's, A Alexander, all one word, on LinkedIn. And that's probably, we'll send you the link to that anyway, so you can put it in your notes.
Absolutely, please.
That is where I offer a lot of my free information. So I constantly have videos up there giving tips on how to interview, giving tips on how to answer certain questions. I write LinkedIn posts daily, and it's all around transitioning in career, having success in career, how to negotiate for the things that you might want in your career, whether it's a higher salary or certain environment, or you want support around certain things. So a lot of my free information, daily information and updates is at my LinkedIn handle, Wendy A. Alexander. But if people want to reach out to me, then happycareerhub.com is the best place to find me.
Well, fantastic. I mean, I was already excited about this topic because there's so much need in this world, and there's so much information that, especially the one percenters, right? The royalty of each of our countries have full access, have full, so much resources that they can do. But the middle class and how high or low you are in that middle class lessens or adds to the resources you have availability. That's what I love about the show, because people like you can have the ability to bring as a resource information to people. Would you type your in the text there? Do you mind typing your website? And I will, do you have any last questions for me, Wendy?
No, I think we've covered a lot of it. Let me just see if I can type here. I'm on the phone, so it's a little bit.
I'll tell you what. I always do a couple of minutes of maintenance stuff and upcoming shows and that. Why don't you say goodbye, and I'll take you off the stage, but you're still looking there. So that might help you out. I'll spend a couple of minutes on the tail end of this show. Any other questions for you, Wendy?
If anyone has a question, go ahead. I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I think we're all let's see, fantastic discussion. Oh, here we go. So yeah, I think that's a great place to step off here, and I love the show. I appreciate your time here, Wendy.
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right.
It was wonderful talking to you, and hope people got some value out of it.
100%. And I look forward to, another show if we can make that happen.
Absolutely. I'd love to speak
All right.
again.
All right. Excellent. Yeah. And you're an excellent. God dang it. I'm not having the best day of my technical skill sets today. I hit the wrong, but I hit the, go ahead.
Mine seems to be having problems as well now. I'm noticing even on the phone, it's starting to get funny. So it's probably a good time.
Yeah, sounds right to me. So say goodbye, and as I always say, go out and wave to somebody.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
All right, that was awesome. I don't know if she is going to be able to type in her contact information here, because obviously you got some information here today. That's the whole purpose, but then you can go to that next level and talk directly and find out directly that next level of information. So I was totally impressed. Like I said, I've been looking to this for a while, and because every message we send is about the middle class. It's about the subject matters range, and it's about what concerns the middle class. And sorry, I'm talking about America, Wendy. So I know it's all over the world where these things are in financial abilities. You said earlier, the middle class, wherever you are, upper, middle, low, that has a direct effect on how much knowledge or resources, as we just said a little bit ago, how much resources are available to you. So having Wendy on today was amazing. You heard her. We'll talk again. I really like some of the guests. I mean, awesome questions here, and we had a nice group of people attending. And I hope you all got it going good. I hope it didn't go in one ear and out the other. And the beauty of that is you have one mouth and two ears. You should always listen 2 times more than you talk about it, because if you can tell somebody some information, you're in a conversation. If you can provide some information to somebody, that's you giving that information out. But if you listen to somebody else who is talking about that information, then you gain additional knowledge. And it's such a critical thing, kind of works in with Wendy's story there on the way outside of it. But she was a lot deeper than that. But, remember that, So with that, I'm Rod Duff. That's me. Wendy's sitting in the green room right now. And producer Barbie's still out in California. Oh, I'm sorry. She's going to be in California. And I told you we're supposed to make that connection between the West Coast and the Midwest. So with that, I think everybody's had their fill. We're down to just 4 viewers. We got somewhere around up to 400 today. Thank you all for your support. I really want, as part of what Wendy was talking about, I really want to be able to challenge this channel to be able to replace the income that I receive from my business. I'm winding that down and winding this up, because I can do this and be able to go remote. I mean, Wendy's here in Australia. We had somebody tomorrow who's from Ireland. One of our original guests was from Sweden. So I'm looking to get closer to my grandbabies. That's why Barbie's out in California. And so I'm going to take your advice, Wendy. I'm going to start really figuring out how to get this side job, right? You talked about a side job. Right now, that's what this is, because I don't get any, I only spend on it. I haven't really, I haven't got anything on it. So, hey, help me out. Watch the show, enjoy your life, create a vibe that's around you that's better than any place, and raises the vibe for every space that you enter. And with that, again, I'm Rod Duff. I love you guys, and I really appreciate all the questions, and really appreciate Wendy. Let's everybody give her a big hand, man. That was a great story, and it certainly was even accented by the accent, and I love the South African, the Australia accents that come in. We just have, well, you hear me talking. We just have, I mean, we say stuff. It's good stuff, but it's not as interesting as some of the speech around the world. Love you guys. For now, I'm Rod Duff.